It begins like a whisper, a rumor drifting through the corridors of Latuli House. But the moment it touches the public, it feels like an earthquake. Cyril Ramaphosa might resign. And suddenly the ANC, a party already staggering under the weight of history and humiliation, finds itself standing on the edge of yet another political cliff. But this time there is something different, something far more dangerous. Because the name being floated as a possible return is one which carries both nostalgia and nightmares. Thabo Mbeki. And so the country finds itself asking, how do we get here again? Why does the ANC keep circling back to old ghosts, old wounds, and old leaders? And most importantly, what does this chaos mean for South Africa? Behind closed doors, insiders from the ANC's National Working Committee say the weekend meeting was tense, emotional, and unusually frank. The idea was thrown onto the table like a grenade. If Ramaphosa steps down, Mbeki could be asked to study the ship until 2027. The irony is almost poetic. The very man who was recalled in 2008 could be invited back to lead the same party that once forced him out. But for many analysts, this isn't poetry. It's madness. Ramaphosa himself has done little to stop the speculation. In characteristic calmness, he has said repeatedly, "If the party asks me to go, I will go." He will not cling to power. He will not fight. And that statement meant to show humility has instead become the spark that fuels rumors of a leadership collapse. Professor Cyril Ramaphosa, a respected political analyst, calls it what it is: a pattern, a culture, a curse that now defines ANC politics. It has become a culture for ANC presidents not to finish their terms, he says, pointing at Mbeki in 2008 and at Zuma in 2018. Now, it seems the party may be preparing to do it again. Another recall, another internal war, another presidency cut short. But if recalling Ramaphosa would be reckless, Ramaphosa says bringing Mbeki back would be catastrophic. And he is not alone. Because behind the nostalgia, behind the respect from Mbeki's intellect, and behind the romantic idea of an elder statesman returning to stabilize the party lies a brutal reality. Thabo Mbeki has long memories, and so do people who helped remove him. Breakfast reminds the country about the unresolved tensions. Ramaphosa, Tokyo sex whale, Matthews Fosa. Names orbiting in both power and betrayal. Mbeki's presidency didn't end peacefully. It ended in a political coup. And yet the ANC now wants to ask him to return. On what basis? With what legitimacy? And for what purpose? Breakfast argues that Mbeki's legacy, which is largely celebrated throughout the continent, would be sacrificed instantly. Mbeki is credited with positioning South Africa as a continental leader, driving the African Renaissance agenda, championing NEPAD, and elevating Pan-African intellectualism. His diplomatic skills were unmatched. His vision was continental. Even his critics agree on that. He was one of the most intellectually gifted leaders the ANC ever produced. So why would such a man return to lead a party that is, by his own words, terminally ill? Why risk being dragged into the mud of the ANC's current dysfunction? Why walk back into a house collapsing under its own weight? Breakfast's warning is sharp. If Mbeki returns, he will be humiliated. And not by the old guard, by the new generation. Julius Malema will finish him in parliament, he says bluntly. A brutal assessment, but not an unrealistic one. The landscape has changed. The ANC no longer commands fear. Its aura of liberation glory no longer shields it. In a parliament dominated by sharp opposition voices, Mbeki would be entering a storm far worse than the one he had left. Professor Dirk Kotzer adds another layer. Even if the ANC wants Mbeki, he cannot return as president of South Africa. The constitution forbids it. He has served 2 terms. So at best, he could be ANC president, not state president. But even that, Kotzer warns, would be a massive mistake that undermines stability and signals internal collapse. Because the truth is simple but devastating, recalling Ramaphosa would shatter what little confidence remains in the ANC's ability to govern itself. But the biggest complication is one the ANC did not anticipate when it lost its majority in 2024. Removing a president is no longer an internal ANC decision. Under the Government of National Unity, every major shift must be negotiated, debated, and approved by other coalition partners. And that is where the ANC's nightmare begins. The DA would fight against Ramaphosa's removal. They may disagree with him ideologically, but they trust him more than the alternatives. They see him as predictable, stable, and better aligned with maintaining the GNU's fragile balance. The EFF and MK party, however, would celebrate his downfall. Jacob Zuma's supporters in particular would see it as a long-awaited victory, a symbolic revenge for 2018. But to survive the loss of its president, the ANC would need these very parties' approval, which means giving them concessions, which means making deals with devils it cannot control, which means weakening the GNU so severely that governance itself becomes a bargaining chip. So the ANC is trapped, squeezed between its own internal factions and the reality of coalition politics. Every option is costly. Every path leads to danger. Every decision carries the possibility of collapse. And hovering above all the speculation is the biggest question of them all. Why is the ANC even entertaining the idea of recalling yet another president? Is it fear? Is it desperation? Is it factional pressure? Or is it something much simpler? A party that has forgotten how to stabilize itself, how to govern itself, and how to move forward without destroying its own leaders. Because right now, the ANC looks like a party losing oxygen. A party reinventing old battles instead of building new solutions. A party that cannot decide whether it wants to be a movement of the past or a functional political organization of the present. Ramaphosa's future does not depend solely on the ANC anymore. It now depends on coalition partners, depends on parliamentary arithmetic, depends on a national mood, and on whether the party has the courage to confront its own dysfunction. One analyst puts it perfectly. This is no longer about leadership. It's about survival. If Ramaphosa is pushed out, the ANC fractures again. If Becky returns, his legacy burns. If coalition partners resist the recall, the GNU destabilizes. If coalition partners support it, the ANC becomes hostage to radical forces. It is a lose-lose situation, a political trap with no easy escape. And perhaps that is the most revealing part of this moment. The ANC is not debating Ramaphosa's leadership because of new scandals or failed policies. It is debating him because it has normalized leadership recalls. Because it has turned internal coups into strategy, because it has forgotten how to allow a president to finish a term. And so the rumor grows. The silence becomes louder. The uncertainty becomes national. South Africans watch once again as the ruling party stumbles through its own internal war, dragging the country's stability along with it. In the end, Ramaphosa may survive this moment. He may hold on until 2027. Or he may bow out quietly as he has promised to do if asked. But whatever happens next, one truth remains clear. This is not about a single man.